As technology reshapes education, how can we stay ahead? Our next keynote speaker is Professor Chua B. Leng, the Chief Learning and Innovation Officer at National Institution of Education. Let's give him a big round of applause, please.
A very good morning to all. Thank you again for having me. I hope you are well rested after an amazing day, first day of conference. There are a lot of rich insights that we gleaned for this conference. There are a lot of talk about, how we harness technology for the way we live, how we harness for teaching and learning. Just now, we had a panel that talks about it's important to develop critical, innovative, and students who are very good at problem solving. So those were things that are important. And those are things that we need to be thinking about. But before I share more about what I want to present today, let's look at some of the great initiatives that we have at UAE. Just 3 years ago, UAE launched a spacecraft onto Mars, first attempt. Just a couple of months ago, UAE wanted to release a new AI model that can compete with tech giant. So indeed, students today, they're living in a world where it's categorized by geopolitical tensions. There's a lot of things that they need to be aware of. They need to be aware of sustainability issues. There are a lot of things that they need to be informed of, but yet they are inundated with information daily. There are constant misinformation, disinformation. As learners today, they need to discern what are reliable, what are information that they can glean for their learning. So it is indeed a very complex world that we live in. And with that, what are we doing to develop future-ready learners? And to develop future-ready learners, we need to be developing future-ready teachers. It's important that today we are cognizant that it's just not about knowledge bases. It's also about competency. It's about students being able to navigate in this complex living world they are in. It's about being resilient. It's about being open-minded. It's about being able to make ethical decisions. It's about being responsible for the decision that they make. So it's not about problem-solving, decision-making, just that process, but ethical and responsible decision and problem-solving process that they embark in. So there's a couple of questions that I would like us to think about here as we harness technology for teaching and learning. So with technology, are we having equal accessibility to all? Or are we creating the digital divide? Is it a meaningful use of technology? Or is it a just-in-time use? During COVID, all of us have to transit to use technology, but it's using technology for very didactic teaching. Is this meaningful use? How do we design hybrid learning environment that empower our students to be more self-directed in this world that we live in? Is it about the need for change, or is it about the want to change? There is a need to change the way we teach during COVID. But now, do we want to change? So if we want to change, how do we harness technology to enable change? How do we design hybrid learning environment for students that not only develop their competencies to use technology for their learning, but the ethical use of technology? Is it about technology that leads pedagogy or pedagogy that leads technology? I know that during my time as an educator, we always say pedagogy leads technology. But with deep technology such as generative AI, is it going to impact on what we teach, why we teach, and how we teach. So technology is going to change the pedagogies that we use in the classroom to engage your learner. Is it about social divide or equality? Your students, do they have access to technology for teaching and learning? Is it about teacher agency or student agency? Now we talk about now students being in a hybrid mode. They do online learning. But educators, do we always face the challenge that students sometimes cannot self-direct their learning? They do not know how to go about regulating their learning. But at the same time, we need to empower them to learn. So how do we develop their competency to own and to self-direct and self-regulate their learning? This is student agency. So with technology offering personalized learning, they can enable the ownership of their learning more efficiently. Is it about teacher agency? As educators, do we assume ownership to design learning environment for our students? Are we clear about our learning intent and objectives for our learners? It is about top-down support, or is it about bottom-up initiative? During COVID in Singapore, we have a learning management system for all students. It gives the infrastructure. We didn't know that COVID came, but it was very timely because students were able to use the platform. The platform was developed for students to have resources to self-direct their learning. But during COVID, teachers come together to develop resources for the learners. And now they are populated with lots of resources. So it's not only a top-down initiative, but top-down support, but it's also a bottom-up initiative by the educator. Is it about grades or is it about learning for life? You heard the principals here say it's really about the 21st century competency. It's about metacognition, learning how to learn, being reflective, being able to develop competencies for them to thrive in the workspace in future. So those are things, critical things that we need to think about as we rethink about how technology is going to help us revisit, reimagine, and redesign education for your students. I would also like to say that we need to build on what we have. So in any education system, there is always timeless constants. So what are the timeless constants? The people, the teachers that you have, the quality teachers that we have, continue to develop their professional learning. It is about what are structures and processes and technologies that you have already set in place. When you put that in place, the education system will always be very nimble and flexible for us to adapt to challenges that comes to our way. It's about people. It's always about people, building people capacity to learn and to innovate. So continue to have an education system that focus on relationship building, well-being. As we embrace technology for teaching and learning, it's important that face-to-face connection, that relationship building is still there. Affirm teachers for the good work they are doing and allow them to continuously be embracing learning as part of their professional development. But at the same time, we need to have timely changes. So what are some of the timely changes? The need to learn for life rather than to learn for grades. So it's important to emphasize 21st century competencies development rather than having just content mastery. As we harness technology, it's also important that we develop their competency to use AI, deep technology, ethically for living and for learning. It is about giving students ownership and giving diverse pathways, and technologies allow that. It's also about lifelong learning, and to have lifelong learning and to have authentic learning experience for the students, it is about partnership with industries to bring authentic problem into the classroom for your learner. So I just in this 10 minutes would like to give you some broad elements that we might be thinking of in terms of education and teacher education. But most importantly, I would like to just share with you those questions I have for you to ponder over, as technology develop, how do you harness them for the learning of your teachers as well as your students? And with that, I thank you.